You look outside right now, right around here, with the way it's green, not so much traffic, and not big city lights and buildings hovering around at this moment. Reminds me a bit of Marietta, Georgia. Marietta has this particular green that's about it. That's very similar to what's right around here right now.
face special counsel Robert Mueller, who's investigating Russian interference in U.S. elections and any potential links between Russia and the Trump campaign. Some Republican lawmakers want the Mueller investigation terminated. Meanwhile, the Washington Post is reporting special counsel Mueller's team has raised the possibility of a subpoena for President Trump. Trump denies any collusion with Russia. Yesterday, the New York Times published a list of questions that Trump's lawyers have, questions that Mueller could ask the president. Texas and 6 other states are suing the Trump administration, seeking to end the program that shields some young immigrants from deportation. NPR's Richard Gonzalez reports on the effort to end the Obama-era program.
The lawsuit was filed by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton at a federal court in Brownsville. It argues that President Obama exceeded his authority when he created the program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. It allows certain immigrants brought here illegally as children to stay and work. President Trump tried to end DACA in March, but 2 federal courts have blocked him. Now Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Nebraska, South Carolina, and West Virginia are asking the court to phase out DACA within 2 years. That would, in effect, set up conflicting court rulings and perhaps force the Supreme Court to intervene. Richard Gonzalez, NPR News.
Arizona teachers remain on strike. They're the 5th state to see large teacher protests since these began in West Virginia last February. NPR's Anya Kamenetz reports a new national poll conducted by NPR and Ipsos finds that most teachers across the country struggle economically.
NPR and Ipsos conducted a nationally representative poll of 500 teachers. 59% told us they have needed to work a second job while also teaching. Like Dana Smith, a high school English teacher in Gilbert, Arizona.
I've done tutoring, I've done babysitting, I cleaned houses. At one point I did some office cleaning in the evenings. I think all teachers at one point or another have done that.
More than 8 in 10 teachers have bought school supplies with their own money, and more than 3 in 4 help students even when they're off the clock. Half reported student loan debt. Finally, more than 9 in 10 say they became a teacher out of a desire to do good. Anya Kamenetz, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR.
From 89.3 WFPL in Louisville, I'm Bill Burton. Governor Matt Bevin says that problems in Louisville's public school system are so severe that changes have to be made. Capitol reporter Ryland Barton says the comments come a day after the state's top education official recommended a takeover of Kentucky's largest school district. On Monday, Education Commissioner Wayne Lewis recommended that the state intervene in the management of Jefferson County Public Schools due to underperforming schools, racial disparities in student performance, and abuse of students. On Tuesday, Bevin wouldn't explicitly say he supports a takeover, leaving it up to the State Board of Education to make the decision.
We've got a less than stellar end result right now, and we have too many children, especially so many of our underprivileged kids.
The takeover would relegate the elected school board to an advisory role and require the district superintendent to report to state officials weekly. The State Board of Education would have to approve Lewis's recommendation for a takeover to happen. JCPS could appeal, triggering a public hearing before the board. I'm Ryland Barton in Louisville. Companies and special interest groups spent $8.4 million trying to influence Kentucky lawmakers this year, the most ever for a legislative session. The Legislative Ethics Commission says it is the 3rd consecutive year Kentucky has set a record for lobbyist spending. The top 3 spenders were all focused on one issue: cigarette taxes. Altria, the parent company for Philip Morris USA, spent $332,000. That's more than double the amount spent by any other group. The tobacco company objected to a proposal to raise the state's cigarette tax. On the other side, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce and the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky combined to spend $270,293 supporting the tax increase. Lawmakers eventually agreed to a 50-cent increase on cigarettes. Governor Matt Bevin vetoed it, but lawmakers overrode him. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb has requested federal assistance for those in the state affected by flooding that hit in February and March. Holcomb's office announced yesterday that he's requested a disaster declaration for 9 Indiana counties for individual assistance and 27 counties for public assistance. Clark, Floyd, and Harrison counties in southern Indiana are included in both requests. In a letter to President Donald Trump, Holcomb noted, "Damage to homes, businesses, peak, nearly 36 counties had declared local emergencies due to widespread flooding. More than 1,800 homes sustained flood damage, including 11 homes that were destroyed.
Support for NPR comes from Progressive Insurance with the Name Your Price tool, offering a range of coverage and price options to choose from. Now that's Progressive. More at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Mostly sunny for us today with a high expected in the mid-80s. Partly sunny in mid-80s tomorrow with a slight chance of showers by mid-afternoon. At the moment, it's 69. I'm Bill Burton, 89.3 WFPL. Good morning. It's 7:07.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Rachel Martin.
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has a message for lawmakers who've been talking of removing him from his job.
There have been people who have been making threats privately and publicly against me for quite some time, and I think they should understand by now the Department of Justice is not going to be extorted.
Rosenstein was speaking on the record at a public event in Washington, and it was not by chance that he said that in response to a question. Earlier this week, the Washington Post reported that some Republican members of Congress were drafting articles of impeachment for Rosenstein. NPR's Scott Detrow has been following this story. He's in our studio. Scott, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, just take this from the beginning for me. Why would some House Republicans be drafting articles of impeachment?
Well, there's two tiers of frustration with Rosenstein from some House Republicans, more conservative members, a lot of them coming from the House Freedom Caucus, which is basically the Tea Party wing of the House Republican Conference. The one hand is an ongoing back and forth about documents and information being handed over to the House. A lot of questions about the Department of Justice and how it's handled this investigation, the 2016 investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server, and basically the ongoing situation we're still in when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice and the 2016 presidential
I guess
election.
we should remember the central thing happening here is that Robert Mueller, the special counsel, has this investigation, and Rosenstein, as the Deputy Attorney General, is the person who's supposed to oversee that because Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, recused himself.
And that is the broader issue here, because this is allegedly a conversation about documents, but Rosenstein has become the central figure of frustration and anger from people like President Trump in his Twitter feed to his supporters in the House, like Devin Nunes, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, because Rosenstein is the person who oversees the investigation. He is the person they are directing their fire at when they call this a witch hunt and things like that.
Just to take the demand for documents at face value, these are demands relating to the origins, the beginning of the FBI investigation back in 2016. Has the Justice Department given explanations for why they have not given over every single document they've been asked for?
It's a broad response that you hear a lot of times when it comes to these types of back and forth, that they need to do their work confidentially, that there are ongoing investigations, that there's a lot of stuff they just can't make public.
So then you mentioned the identities of the individuals who are actually talking about impeachment and talking about people resigning. Mark Meadows of the House Freedom Caucus, after the reporting on this drafting of an impeachment article, said that if Rosenstein is not willing to give up documents or do his job, is how Meadows phrased it in a tweet, he ought to resign. What are the connections between the most hard-charging Republicans and President Trump?
So we should put this in context here, because this is a leaked draft coming from one pocket of the House Republican Conference, not coming from leadership. House Speaker Paul Ryan has repeatedly said that Robert Mueller needs to be able to do his job. But this is important because it tells you how hard it would be for Congress to act on the bills we've been talking a lot about to protect Robert Mueller, for example. Because this is clear that the energy on the Republican side is not to protect Robert Mueller, but rather push back on this investigation, to try to wind down this investigation, to try to impeach, in the case of some members, one of the people in charge of it.
You're saying that the leadership in Congress, including Republican leadership, has been supportive of continuing the investigation, but the House Republican rank and file would rather cut it off if they could possibly do that.
Well, the Freedom Caucus is important because it can have a say over what the House does. It's not that they have the votes to pass bills on their own, because they certainly don't, and we've seen that again and again, especially when it comes to funding issues, but they can block House leadership from doing what it wants, and this is a sizable chunk of the House Republicans saying, we have big problems with Rod Rosenstein.
Scott Detrow, one other thing I want to ask about. The Associated Press has some reporting relating to Robert Mueller's investigation. They've been talking with a former lawyer to President Trump, and the former lawyer says that there had been discussions of a subpoena to the President of the United States to compel him to testify, or compel him rather to speak to investigators would be a better way to phrase that. What's going on there?
We've known for a while there's been an ongoing back and forth between Mueller and Trump's legal team. They have questions for Trump. They want answers. And in this conversation, based on this reporting, it seems they said, we can subpoena you, and that's an option we are considering. Not necessarily that this is what they're going to do. We don't know what they're going to do, but this is more filling in the blanks of that ongoing back and forth between Trump's team and Mueller's team.
The question of when, if at all, the Scott, thanks very much.
Okay, it's normal for the majority party to lose some seats in the midterm election, but Republicans know this is not a normal year. Democrats are rallying their base and now raising Republicans in critical races. And the list of Republican lawmakers choosing to step down is getting longer. Republicans know they have their work cut out for them, and they're strategizing about how to do that work this week in Florida at the annual RNC conference. John Woodback is the chairman of Virginia's Republican Party, and he joins me now from the conference in South Florida. Mr. Woodback, thanks for being with us.
Well, good morning.
Senator Ted Cruz of Texas said earlier this year that Democrats will, quote, crawl over broken glass to vote in November. How are you feeling? Are you worried about...
bright flashes from those buildings. It's every morning going forward. It's going to be blind to every driver. That was a poor decision to build that right there that way. And yes, that was a dead deer on the road. So those 3 people who follow me every morning aren't following me all the way through. Yeah, I know about you guys. Whether it's intentional or not, it's a different story. There are 3 people who follow me practically every morning. Same cars, leave at the same time I always do, or thereabouts. Interesting.